miraculously, this time sort of opened up and I was like, I think this is the time, like, you know? And I literally just like started a Facebook page and posted my logo on it. And everyone's like, wow, you have your own like, agency. That's
nothing
amazing.
gets you more attention from actors than announcing you're starting your own agency.
Yeah, actors are like LinkedIn, like random people, like congrats on your new title. Like, it's like cool, you know?
Welcome to Out of Frame, a Nerdy Filmmaker podcast, where I sit down with actors and creators from across the entertainment industry discussing the successes and struggles within their stories. My name is Julian Stamboulieh, aka the Nerdy Filmmaker, and today we are joined by Jessica Greenberg, a casting director who, after several years working in the industry, has discovered that casting Hollywood films aren't all they're cracked up to be. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, Julian.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure to be here.
And by us, I mean me.
Yes.
In an empty room. So you work in casting. You also have a podcast now. And we're going to get to all of that and more. But first, I would love to know where you started. You were born here in Montreal, right?
Yes, born and raised in DDO, actually, Dollar Days Armo. Mm-hmm. So some people don't consider that Montreal. But I was born there and raised there, moved to Montreal. And I never lived anywhere else, actually. I always stayed here, close to family.
Cool.
Yeah.
But you went to like elementary and high school. You went to elementary in DDO?
Yes, I went to Hebrew Foundation, which is a Jewish elementary school. Learned Hebrew, a little Yiddish.
Do you still speak any of it?
Ksat, a little.
Ksat.
Just a little bit, yeah, but not so much.
Okay. And then tell me, what high school did you go to?
Well, Julian, I went to St. George's High School of Montreal. We attended together, for anyone who didn't know.
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
We were there together. That's where we met.
Exactly.
And so many of the people that I still keep in contact with, even like especially within the industry, seem to have come from St. George's.
Yeah. I actually have a funny story.
I want to hear it.
So, were you at our 10-year reunion?
I forget. There was one I missed.
Okay. Well, there's only one 10-year. No?
Jesus.
Yeah.
There was one reunion I missed, but I forget which one.
Maybe there was like a 5-year, 10-year.
Okay.
Either way, whatever. I went back to the school and they just put in like the new gym and the new theater, and they gave us a whole like school tour, and our theater teacher was there. And I chit-chatted with her a little bit and told her like what I do and my job. And she was like, oh, I wouldn't think you would be doing something like that. And just to give some context, I was in the theater program, but I was not good.
But you could see how good everyone else was.
Totally. I knew who would become stars. Like JT Silver was top. Beatrice was great. You were great. There was a lot of like amazing talent in our grade. I was not one of them.
Okay, fair enough. So you left St. George's. You dabbled in the theaters
Well,
while
I
you were there.
graduated. I didn't leave. I graduated.
This is gonna be one of those interviews. You graduated, and then went on to CEGEP and university here. Were you already thinking that you wanted to go into the entertainment industry?
Pretty much, but I didn't know what that meant. It's like, yeah, I want to work in entertainment, but like I didn't know what jobs were possible. Like I didn't know what existed. I got my deck at Dawson, and then I went into human relations at Concordia because I knew that like I wanted to just have a bachelor's degree, go through university, but like I really just wanted to start working and figuring out what I wanted to do. I wasn't great in school, like I'm not like an academic. I learned by doing. So I just wanted to like get out of there and start working. That was like my goal.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so what were your first jobs out of university?
Well, I did a lot of retail. I worked at summer camp as a counselor. Loved that. So fun. Did a lot of retail. And then during university, I actually got my first job as a PA, working on Mystery Hunters 4 for Apartment 11.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so fun because they did shoots where they would travel. So I would help plan all the travel stuff. They had a studio shoot, did a little bit of casting there too. And just learned like how production is. Mm. So that was like one of my first summer jobs actually.
And so how did you get that first job? Who did you know, Jess?
Good question, because I did know somebody. My dad is friends with this woman named Frankie Mayu, and she's a production manager. She actually worked on Student Bodies. Mm. And that was sort of like, I met her when I was younger, when she was working on that. And it was like my favorite show. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool that like, that's done here and you work on that. And maybe that's what like got into my head. I don't know, still didn't really know what was possible and all those things. But so she was working on Mystery Hunters 4 and she gave me the job as a PA. I mean, I still interviewed, I'm
not insinuating anything.
Proved myself. Worked like freaking like 17-hour days. Well, yeah,
And so after that project, were you bit by the bug? Were you going straight into entertainment?
I had to finish university, but during one of my last semesters, that's when I got the job as a production coordinator with Frankie. So she had moved from Apartment 11 to CMJ. And that's when in my last semester at school, started working as a coordinator, doing the coordination of like all the doc side stuff of the shoots for The Will, Family Secrets Revealed. And I remember like I had this online class and I had to be at work, but I was like, guys, I have like an online exam. And like everyone was helping me with this online exam, like in the office, because I was like working, like anyway. And then I remember I graduated in May, and then that same May was the first shoot, the reenactment shoot. And that's when I started casting.
I had gone in for Fatal Vows.
Yeah.
And I remember going into the audition for that. And I was auditioning for a lookalike, a kid that had been framed for the murder of a woman's husband.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or she killed me and then framed her husband. That's what it was. And then he was sent to jail. And
if she was so scared you were an intruder and you were just like the friendly neighbor.
You know what? Okay, so I've got two great stories. But the first one was a story from on set, which was that these productions ran really fast and sometimes things weren't, communication wasn't always there. I remember at one point I asked, was I on camera? In the foreground, I was just an eye line because she was going to be shooting me with guns like this from her bed. And they're like, no, you're not on camera. So I'm like, just out of frame? They're like, yeah. And they said action. And she started going like this. And I just started going, ah! Like without the voice, right? I was going, I'm in the foreground.
Oh my God.
Just me going like this, just my shoulders. I'm just like, oh my God.
That's amazing.
I remember going in for my audition. And I think it's the first time I'd ever even seen you in a casting room. I don't even know if I knew you were going to be there. So I was quite surprised. And what was her, was it Lorna?
Lorna. That
was an interesting room that the casting was in. Do you remember that room?
Yeah.
There was a story behind that room.
Well, there's a story about what that office used to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They used blue walls.
Why?
They shot porn in that room.
They sure did.
I never worked there. This was my first time in that room.
Was it like docudrama porn? Or was it a different company?
I think it was porn. I mean, I don't know the different genres, but...
I'll educate you later.
All right. Sounds good.
So were you working as Lorna's assistant? Were you on equal footing there? Were you a casting agent at that place?
Yeah, we were sort of the team. She was overlooking, there was a few productions there at that time. So she was overlooking all of the productions, and I was focusing on Fatal Vows, and there was also The Will going on at the same time too.
How long did you end up working there?
I was with CMJ for about like 7 years, I want to say.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Well, even probably about 7 years. Like Fatal Vows went on to do 7 seasons, but I had started before Fatal Vows on The Will, was there for a year. And yeah, it's probably about 7 years.
At that point, you ended up taking over the casting by yourself for CMJ.
Yeah.
So that was the first time you were the solo lead of the casting.
Yeah.
How long was that going on for? And what was it like kind of stepping into that solo position?
Yeah, it felt good. Like I'm trying to remember what it felt like. Yeah,
Just make it up if you don't remember. But make it like salacious.
No, it was good because I had worked there a few years. I was feeling confident with the talent, like my knowledge of the talent and relationships in Montreal, the relationships I built with the agents, and they were like booming. You know what I mean? Like I was working on a bunch of different series, doing voice stuff, for doing like magazine style shows, finding experts, like celebrity gossip people, lawyers to PR people, because we did a show called Celebrity Damage Control and Celebrity Legacies. And so we needed on-camera experts to talk about these celebrities and different lawyers, PR, all that stuff. So I was really immersed in I was close with the development team and the writers and researchers. And it was really nice being in a company and working closely with the teams there, Right. That's what I really loved.
And so after that, you ended up separating from CMJ to start your own casting agency, or was that coinciding with the closing of CMJ?
So what happened was Fatal Vows ended up their air dates were later than usual. So then the renewal came later. And in years past, there was maybe 3-4 months downtime, and they would always keep me busy with different things to do. I was always on contract there, but they would, when I first started, I was doing transcriptions and just so they could keep me busy so I wouldn't go off to another company, that I would be available to them for casting when it would come back. And so there was a bigger time frame between wrapping and renewal. So, and I had always wanted to sort of go off on my own because I felt in a way I had outgrown this type of casting. These were the shows that they were producing, and I just wanted to, start working with different people, different kinds of projects. So yeah, I remember when I was there, I had a logo made and was thinking up of different ideas, and then miraculously this time sort of opened up, and I was like, I think this is the time, and I literally just started a Facebook page and posted my logo on it, and everyone's like, wow, you have your own agency. That's
nothing
amazing.
Gets you more attention from actors than announcing you're starting your own agency.
Yeah, actors are LinkedIn, random people, congrats on your new title. It's cool, and
hey, Jess, remember me? We went to high school together.
Yeah, literally. So yeah, that's what it was but I maintained a good relationship with everyone at CMJ. And when Fatal Vows came back, I still did, work for them, but did it under my own name.
So you're starting Greenberg Casting.
Yeah.
And you get your own space, I would assume, pretty immediately because you have to start having a space to run casting.
Yeah. Well, I only did that about a year in.
Okay. Where were you working out of before that?
My house. And then for
Swank.
auditions, yeah. This was pre-pandemic, so I was pretty ahead of my time working out of my house, But yeah, I'm working out of my house, and for auditions, I would use the production office for Fatal Vows because that was mainly the projects I was working on. So I would use their offices for auditions, and everything else would be from home, or I would go work there.
So what are the first steps when you become your own self-represented, your own company, your own casting agency? I don't know if because you've been working for a production company, you didn't necessarily have to do outreach because you were working only on their productions. You were in-house. So when you branch off on your own, what are the steps that you took to get your name out there with different industries, companies, not only in the city, but across the country and maybe even in the US? How did that go?
I'm still learning. This is like the part I hate the most is like selling myself. But what was important to me was being a part of the CDC, the Casting Directors Society of Canada. So that was one of the first things I did because I wanted to be recognized. I have the credits, I have the experience, and I wanted that designation. So I became a member of the CDC. I did build great relationships and strong relationships with a lot of the production managers and producers at CMJ. And as we know, it's all contract based. So then they go off and work on different projects on different with different companies, and they would call me to work on those different projects. So even though things at CMJ were changing, I was still able to work on different things with the same producers, but at different companies and with different shows. Mm-hmm. So I don't really do a lot of salesy kind of like outreach, you know? Mm-hmm. I think that's probably, that's one of my challenges for sure.
First off, I think one of the big issues of Montreal is we just don't have enough agents. We don't have enough casting or talent agents.
Yeah.
Because we produce so many actors, and a lot of them are extremely talented, and yet they still struggle to find agents, and they struggle to get in the door.
Yeah.
And when there's not enough casting agents, then the actor base a lot of times suffers because I think of new upcoming actors because they're not in the forefront of other agents, of casting agents. So the more casting agents you have, the more diversity of performer gets to be seen for different projects.
Yeah.
First off, I say as an actor, it's great to have another agent in there.
Yeah.
But I also always see you at networking events. Mm-hmm. You're always coming to all the performer events. You go to see plays, you go to see premieres, and you talk with people. You're very open about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps demystify the relationship between the actor and the casting agent, because a lot of times the actor is not the one that deals with the casting agent. It's the talent agent that does.
Yeah.
So for young actors to have that ability to actually communicate with someone and learn a little bit, I think is wonderful. So
good. Well, that's like my intention always was, like going back to high school. I remember like auditioning for the play or going up and doing like our Shakespeare monologue, and I was a wreck, like so nervous. And I think that I, maybe to a fault, but I carry that nervousness with me, and I feel for the actors coming into the room. So, and maybe it's the people pleaser in me, like whatever it is, but I want to make sure that everyone that steps in, this was when we were doing in-person auditions, that everyone felt comfortable, because I think it just produces better work, allows for better work, and like, why not? Mm-hmm. If we can make everyone comfortable, like, why not?
Wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Within a few years, your industry and all of our industries will change by the pandemic. But before that happens, what was some of the hardest parts of your work outside of reaching out to people and to selling yourself, as you said? So what was some of the biggest challenges, but also some of the biggest joys about working as a casting agent? Well,
it's really lonely. Because like I don't have a team. Yeah, I would bring in an assistant, so that was really nice. But going from working in an office environment and like being so close with the team and like I said, like just immersed in that culture, now I'm like alone in my office and there's like no one to bounce ideas off of, brainstorm with, like. And you really feel like, okay, it's like you get your script and you're like, and break, you know? And it's like everyone goes off and like it's lonely, you know? It's like, or you have ideas, you want to talk about things, you need to vent, because like sometimes the requests are like, can we swear?
Like we already have.
Oh, all right, cool. The requests are like fucking crazy. So like when you have no one to like let that out to, and it's like, I could call my sister, I could call my friends, I could tell them, but like they don't like get it, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was like really hard, was just working alone. So didn't like that. And then, I mean, the joys, which is always the joy, is being a part of getting someone an opportunity that they're so excited about. You know, like that's what makes me happy, is being a small part of that.
2020 rolls around, and we'd all been hearing murmurs of something that might be going down. I know that I knew it was really real when I got the TMZ notification that the NBA canceled their season.
Wow.
And we have an office here, and I remember panicking and thinking to myself, like, if that shut down, the NBA, like, Bean Dog doesn't stand a chance. You know, like our industry is about to get decimated.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it was actually worse than I thought, but on the other hand, I think that the industry has bounced back a little bit here in Montreal, Canada, wherever. But what was that kind of? What was the initial thoughts that were going through your mind when you started hearing about the pandemic coming here?
I was definitely like a little nervous because like nothing like this has happened before. But there was part of me that like loved it. Like absolutely loved it. Cause I was like, holy shit. Like, you know, at first we thought it was 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like, okay, 2 weeks. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to do anything. No one's looking for any, like, you know, mm-hmm. It was just like, just stop. So I took advantage of it. You know, and then that lasted a long time. I think I did some like voice projects because like that was still going on. But at that time, our industry definitely slowed down. And then probably like within 6 months, things started to shoot again. That's when I actually really started working with Rosina. Mm. She was doing Transformers.
This is Rosina of
Elite Casting.
Elite Casting.
Yeah, and that was the other problem too, was when I opened up my own agency, I felt like so supported by the whole community. Like everyone is like rooting for me, you know? Like, and I feel that and I love it and it's amazing. But I definitely had like imposter syndrome because I was like, I taught myself what I know, but like I don't know what I don't know. And I never worked with another casting director. And I guess like, you know, the big studio projects like seemed like, okay, well, like I must not know a lot of things like to get there, mm-hmm. you know? Mm-hmm. And I think maybe like I was holding myself back in a way out of fear of like, well, I don't want to like screw myself or mm-hmm. Embarrass myself for not knowing certain things. And then I got like my own MOW, which was like a big...
which is, for those who don't know,
Movie of the Week.
Movie of the Week, baby.
Yeah, so much fun. I always say like those are like a sweet spot for me. Like I actually think they're my favorite things to work on.
Why?
I don't know. Like I just think there's a bit less politics about it. When you go to like and they're good enough roles that the actors are happy to do it. I think that's the vibe I get, is people are excited to like do those kinds of things. Maybe that's not on everyone's dream board, but like I find it's a sweet spot. I find like people know what they're getting into. It's good work, good like normal, good pay. And for me, like not having to deal with like a big studio and network and like all that bureaucracy makes it like a lot more enjoyable.
No, and I agree that like, you know, I'm looking forward to my first movie of the week. But I know that I do know a lot of actors who are very well established who absolutely say yes to movies of the week because they're fun, good teams. From what I hear, they're also well shot, you know, and that's another thing. I mean, they're not the most original things.
No, it's very formulaic.
But they're professionally shot, and you know it's going to be good stuff for your demo if you're at a place that you still have to worry about your demo. Yeah, you know. Or filling up your demo. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I had a lot of fear of like, what do I not know? And am I really a casting director? Like, you know what I mean? Like all those questions, like, okay, like I've only worked on like docudrama reenactments, but like, so like, you know, that internal struggle thing. And then I started working with Rosina. She called me when she got Transformers. And I was like, oh my God, this is like my first big studio project. And thank God I could work under her and learn from her and see what it's like. Because that was always like my dream, my goal, you know? And it's not my only goal anymore. Like,
that is the best place. Okay, yeah, that's very diplomatic.
You know, like, because obviously if I got a call to be like, hey, do you want to cast, like, you know, whatever, like, I'm not saying no, but it's like, that's why I go back to like movie of the weeks and Christmas movies. Like, that is nice. That's fun, you know, because it's not like, they're not like long dragged out, like it's a quick contract and it's like not a huge commitment on other people's parts. Like, it's just like easy, you know? Yeah, so I worked on Rosina. Worked on it good. Yeah. I worked on Transformers with Rosina. I love working with her. And that's sort of like what started this working relationship that we have now. And also realizing too that like, yeah, there's certain things that I didn't experience with CMJ. Like there wasn't those like negotiations that happened with agents, you know, because it was like reenactments, it's scale. Like we can't pay you more. So if you don't accept it, then we'll move on to someone else, you know? So like there wasn't really those like negotiations and major approvals. We still had to get approval by the network, but it wasn't like they weren't choosing who they wanted. We would present who we chose and they would just sign off on it.
And so have there been any other major projects that you have been a part of that have maybe been a better experience than maybe Transformers, or ones that you are the most proud of?
Yeah, there was one we did last winter called The G. It's not out yet, with director Carl Hearn. He actually wrote, directed, and he was amazing to work with. And I find like you never know how a project is going to be until you do it, obviously, you know? And I find the director, like, whatever energy they come in with is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And he was amazing in auditions, amazing with actors. Like, it was a pleasure to work with him. Like, wow, loved it.
Nice.
And it was an independent feature, good script. Like, you saw the actors loved auditioning for it because they're like, what? Like, they would come in like for callbacks and be like, wow, like I love this script, this scene, the dialogue, like, and so that was so nice to like see the actors really respond to it, and like they were having fun with it. So it made our job more fun too, you know? So that was amazing.
Nice. As a tangent, coming back to something you said about the pandemic, about enjoying it.
Yeah.
I know that, like, you know, so I work as in like 7 different things. I'm constantly, a lot of times it feels like I'm flailing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm flailing to find success. I'm flailing to find whatever, to find what brings me joy, which is very stressful. You know, there was a large chunk of the beginning of the pandemic, once the initial fear was gone, that was very simple and nice. And it was the fact that not only was I aimless, but the world was aimless.
Right.
And that was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everyone was figuring stuff out, and it gave you the justification to just like chill for a bit.
Right.
And there was a large chunk of time where I was just like, I built up this wonderful routine. I'd, you know, wake up to the smell of coffee. I would eat granola and watch anime.
Did you bake banana bread?
My partner did.
Amazing.
And it was delicious. And then I would just friggin' play World of Warcraft while learning about YouTube on my second monitor. So, but I also recognize that we were very privileged in Canada to be able to have that experience of the pandemic, thanks to CERB. You know, we had a $2,000 a month if you were eligible.
I say that I loved it. Of course, there were stressors, financial ones, like, oh my God, what is life? Yeah. Like all those things, 1,000%. But I think, like you said, it sort of gave everyone permission to just stop. And I think we needed that. Yeah. And I don't know. I think you realize like, okay, like life is not just about work.
Yeah. It's also about maxing out the level on your troll warrior.
Oh, I thought you were going to say credit cards.
No. No. No, I was not going to say that.
No. But yeah, it was permission to just stop. And I think that like a lot of reflection for me happened to be like, okay, like what do I want, you know?
Was it also during the pandemic that your TikTok was born? Because you started a TikTok that was following your journey, if you will, as a casting agent, but also offering a lot of tips to actors about the audition process. So what inspired you to do that?
I think it was a way to like connect with people again. Having gone through like so many self-tapes and like not having that in-person interaction, I just wanted to have that connection with people. And I just like tried doing some like Instagram stories and YouTube videos like during the pandemic, but I wasn't really like, I'm not like an editor. Like I just like, you know, it was too much for me. And so it didn't really click. And then like, I love TikTok as a user. Like I find it so entertaining. And
what is your For You feed full of?
You know what? It changes. The other day, it was all like singing. Weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also into like celebrity gossip. I like that stuff a lot. Like self-help, like spirituality. That would be like some cooking.
Got it.
Yeah. How about yours? What's your TikTok?
Vastly different from mine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No. What's your For You page?
Mine is like cosplay and UFC fights.
Any UFC fights in cosplay?
Oh my God.
That would be something.
Move over, Dana White. And so you're still doing your TikTok to this day? It's slowed down a bit, I think, but I believe you're still posting.
Yeah, like when when like inspiration strikes, I'll do it. Trying to be less in my head. I do overthink it a lot. You know, I'm like, how is someone going to take this? Like, there has to be thought gone into it too, because like it is short videos. So you want to make sure that your point comes across concisely. So sometimes it's hard to like put that in to like 3 minutes, you know? And then you want to follow the trends and like with different music or whatever. So yeah, it's like, when it strikes, and I try, like, I don't put pressure on myself to like, I have to post all the time. Yeah.
So you mentioned self-tapes.
Yeah.
You'd brought up the idea of self-tapes. So that was probably one of the biggest shifts for actors in the city was all of a sudden we all had to learn how to do, I mean, I already knew, but how to do our own audition tapes at home.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, for those of you who don't know, instead of going into the casting agent's office with our script probably 2 days after receiving the script,
if you were lucky.
If we're lucky, and auditioning in front of not necessarily always the casting agent, in your case it is, but also sometimes it's a casting director, so someone hired by the agency to direct the session director.
Right.
Someone to direct the session, and then there's a reader who's reading the other lines, and then there's a camera person. We had to learn how to do all of that ourselves, which puts a lot of the onus of all this other stuff on the actor, and it a lot of times distracts them. But how did the self-tape workflow affect you, and how are you feeling about the crawl back to occasional in-person auditions?
I think for me, it wasn't such a huge adjustment in a way, just because, you know, we've received self-tapes in the past. So it wasn't something that like I've never done before. Again, like I am very empathetic towards the actors. So I did feel for them, like, you know, it is a lot of work, straight up. It's a lot of work to set that up and prepare. And so I feel for them.
Thank you.
But it didn't like it didn't change so much. I think it did allow us to see more people per role, because we had the time. Like, I'm on a project right now, and I was able to like watch all self-tapes like over the weekend, like without any phone calls, email distractions, like just like blast through them, And when you're in a session in an audition day, it's there's a lot that happens in a work day and you can't get to when you're in a session. So I think for me, it's more productive. But most of the projects I've done, we've had in-person callbacks.
Oh, great.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's a really nice mix of it all.
Yeah. But do you think that, have you noticed a shift, because you've known so many actors before when they used to come in person and then to the self-tapes, do you notice a shift in quality of auditions? Because we're kind of going into it just with what's written down on a paper, and sometimes those casting breakdowns don't answer all of our questions about what the character is, something that we could just quickly ask in person. And so we kind of just go, oh, okay, well, we'll just do what we think.
Yeah.
So in terms of the quality of what you're receiving, have you noticed any kind of difference?
No, I think like 99% of actors are very instinctive and they know what they want to do. They know the choices they want to make, and they're 99% of the time bang on. You get one person maybe who like took a really weird interpretation of the script and the role, but like majority are doing great. Yeah. And I know the feedback is like you miss the direction or the, so and I understand that too. But I think hopefully these self-tapes are allowing you to make those choices with more confidence and trusting your instincts more. Okay. That's your craft, your skill. Do you agree or no?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could disagree with me.
No, I completely agree with everything that you said.
Okay.
Jess Greenberg of Greenberg Casting. I
would never
disagree with you on anything.
No, honestly, I have I was thinking about that before. I'm like, I don't have ego. And I know you're playing with me right now, because if you did disagree, you would say something. But really,
I love disagreeing with people.
All right.
It's my raison d'être, if you will.
Oh yeah, for us, we don't know how many times you've done it and rehearsed it. And we don't know what take you're sending us. So that's why I like doing in-person callbacks too. We get to see you, get into the scene and do your work. Yeah.
If I can give a piece of advice about self-taping, as someone who sees a lot of people coming in to do self-tapes here, a lot of the times people that are doing 10 to 11 takes, your 10th take is not that much different from your first take. If you know the lines, if you know the character, and you have a couple different interpretations of it, let that be your different takes. But I think that people really hammer in thinking it's going to be perfect, but I don't think that the little thing on one little line here and there is what's going to bridge the gap between getting the role and not getting the role.
Exactly.
I'm going to come back to casting in a bit.
Yeah.
Because next up, I want to touch a little bit on what you're working on currently right now with a fellow Montreal actor.
Yes.
Tell us about your new podcast.
Amazing. I would love to.
Please.
I'm so excited about it. I really love podcasting. It's called Book the Room. Mm-hmm. My co-host is Susanna Lanier, who is a veteran actor and also teaches acting classes. And we share an office. So she teaches at night, I'm there during the day. And we just got to talking, we were both saying how we love podcasts, and we're thinking maybe we would each start one, and maybe we could be each other's accountability partners, sort of push each other to do it and brainstorm ideas. And then she actually started a clubhouse over the, it over the pandemic?
Yeah.
And I loved them, and I loved hearing from different people, and it was just great conversations. And for people who don't know, it's literally a live podcast where it's conversation. So we both had different ideas for podcasts, not even acting related. And then I said, why don't we like do something similar to your to your Clubhouse? And that's sort of how it was born.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's called Book the Room because you're not going to book every part, but if you do a good job, you could book the room, and you never know what opportunities can come from your work in those audition rooms with the people who are in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the, meaning behind it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we want to spotlight Montreal talent. We want to be a good source of motivation and also just like realistic information about navigating this whole industry, mm-hmm. which can be daunting. and so yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, you have wonderful guests on it, and what's nice about the format that you do it in versus the format that I'm currently doing it in, which takes. I always set myself up for the most possible work I can possibly do. But what's nice about the format that you do it through is that you can hit so many different guests. Yes. I know that I recently listened to the one with Don Ford, who so is good. Just a joy. Yeah. And the two of you and Susanna work so well off of each other. So what are your kind of hopes for that podcast?
Sort of, I'll speak for myself, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, part of it is to continue that connection with our community in another way. Mm-hmm. Perhaps they'll feel more accessible, to be a good resource for our community, for people starting out. And also for me, for casting, I think it's just another way to get my name out there and my voice out there, as opposed to like knocking on doors and trying to like sell myself and my services and things like that, So it's, it's just another avenue and way to get out there.
Sick.
Okay,
I want to come back to some rapid fire questions about casting. Now, I encourage everyone to go to Jessica's TikTok and watch the catalog of stuff, because there's probably a lot of these that already have answers in there, and to follow the podcast because some great stuff there.
And great stuff coming.
We're
not stopping.
Oh my goodness.
There is so much in the pipeline.
What project do you wish you had cast?
Do I wish I had cast?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to, it's more like, what style of film or TV do you like? Would you wish to cast?
My next goal is like a comedy series. I want to I want to get into a series and like have it have multiple seasons, like a dream, like an actor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I was talking about with CMJ, like I was really immersed in that whole thing, and I got to know how the directors worked, who they liked, what kind of, and it just became such a flow. So I would love
like a Schitt's Creek kind of.
Yeah, and I love comedy, and it's like we have so many funny people here in Montreal, and I find there's not. So, like, we don't do enough comedy here, I find.
No.
I mean, we don't do enough here, period, but also comedy. Mm-hmm. We need more comedy. So I would love putting it out in the universe. We're going to manifest this to work on a comedy series that goes on for like a lot of seasons.
New actors.
Yes.
Let's give them some tidbits, shall we? A new actor wants to reach out, doesn't have an agent. Is that kosher?
Submit with a project that you feel you're fit for, because I don't keep a roster. Mm-hmm. That's what agents are for, So if you feel you're fit for a project, submit yourself. If you don't have an agent, obviously you're going to self-submit. That's fine. Or invite me to a show. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a bit better. Your CV and headshot are going to get lost in my email. Like, I don't keep that. Or I do, but like I don't remember to check.
You have 1,000 people to remember.
Exactly.
At any given time. Okay.
Yeah.
In your opinion, must an actor be entirely off book?
No, but I think cold reading, like, you have to be prepared and know the arc of the scene and where the scene is going, like that has to be in you and you have to know that. Word for word is not important. But you can't be reading. But I don't care if you hold anything in your hand.
Strong choices. Actors making strong choices.
Love it.
Okay.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch.
I'd imagine it's easier to tone someone back than it is to push them forward.
Yeah.
So maybe someone coming in with really strong choices that are not a match, but kind of shake you out of. Because I also imagine that seeing, let's say, a three-line, and you're seeing 100 people over self-tapes, you know, that strong choice, even if it doesn't match, does that kind of shake you out of like a lull of watching? I can imagine it'd be quite tiring to watch that many tapes.
Well, it depends. It could get tiring. Also depends on the scene, right? Because then sometimes like you're looking for that beat and you're waiting for it and you get excited. It's like, oh, I want to see what they do here. And so it could be exciting, and depending on the scene and the dialogue, it could be a bit boring. And then you have to go back and rewatch because like depending on who you start with, and then, you know, yeah. So it's like I always have to go back and rewatch things because you change, you know, I write notes and then I go back to my notes. I'm like, oh, I said that.
One of the big things with actors right now is the feeling like there's too much outside talent coming into the city for roles. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's true?
I don't think it's not true, but I think it's just our reality. And it's just like, get used to it. Like, especially with self-tapes, things are going to be cast Canada-wide, potentially internationally. So it is what it is. And I will say, I don't think that people outside of Montreal are better. It's just maybe there's more variety. And at the end of the day, the director will go with who they want. And the project comes first, you know?
If an actor is going into their first audition or second audition or whatever, and they're extremely nervous, what advice would you give them to help them focus and calm down?
Well, I'll give advice that I just heard from Amber Goldfarb, who we had on our podcast. She said, expect to mess up and plan your recovery. So allow yourself to mess up. It's going to happen and it's okay, but plan your recovery. And I would say your recovery should not be like, don't take up so much space. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, you know, just can I like, stay collected, either call for your line or can we retake that? I need a second. That's it. It's okay.
Last question. You mentioned at one point, you said there's not enough in this city.
Enough projects.
There's not enough projects.
Yeah.
What do you think needs to change to help fix that? What's within our power? Because there's not a lot in our power.
No.
A lot of it has to do with money. A lot of it has to do with...
It's like politics. It's like governments and the bills, the French bill, is it 101, 99? Like, I don't even know. And I need to educate myself more and like try to push for things because like when they look at Montreal, they look at French. They don't look at our English productions here. Like when they're giving grants and things like that. Yeah. So it's like, it is a major problem. And it's a deterrent for outside people to come here. Apparently the paperwork is crazy. Like, you know, just the translations of everything, all the documents, all the legal forms, like it could be a nightmare. So it's like, it's beyond us, I think.
Okay. So there's nothing we can do.
I don't think so.
Damn. That's some real
I mean, we
shit
could go
right
like
there.
we could go like lobby.
Good.
Which, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, on that really shining note, thank you, Jess, for coming in today.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
And I hope you land all the casting roles of your dreams.
Yes, comedy series.
Comedy series coming at you soon. Cast by Greenberg Casting.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I think that's good, right?
Cut. I think so.
Thanks so much for watching today's interview. If you want to check out the rest of them, head to the Out of Frame playlist. And if you want to support the channel, make sure you subscribe and like and leave a comment, share with a friend, all the usual stuff. So thanks again, and I'll see you at the next one.